Welcome to episode 22 of the greatest horror movie review show on the internet. I know what you watched last week.
Yeah. And we have some... I think this should be a pretty entertaining episode, even though...
Now you've done it.
I'd assume most people haven't seen these, which...
Heightened expectations.
But in a way, those are my favourite. I prefer watching the random, obscure ones.
I think a lot of people would have seen a certain one.
Do you think so?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, without further ado then, I'll get into the 3 films that we watched last week.
It's not special this week.
No. Back to regular. Sorry, everyone.
So there are franchises in here.
We started the week off with Bring It On! Cheer or Die!
Yeah, Bring It On, the horror movie.
Then we saw Campfire Tales.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, we saw See No Evil.
Starring Kane, the one and only Kane from the World of Wrestling Entertainment / Federation.
With fake teeth, I hope, for his sake.
I'm not entirely sure, so you don't want him to hear you say that because you see what he's capable of.
Especially when he's got a hook on a chain in hand. But without jumping too far ahead, should we get straight into the rankings?
Rank them.
From last to first. Bring It On is bottom of the pyramid. See what I did there? And...
Cheerleader terminology.
Yeah, exactly. Then I would give silver to See No Evil, which means that Campfire Tales gets the gold this week.
I've got it in exactly the same order.
Have you actually?
Yeah,
Okay.
isn't this the first time in a few episodes at least where
Yeah, probably.
put it in the exact same
I'm not
order?
surprised about the 3rd place. I knew that was going to be your last place pick, but I wasn't sure necessarily about the other 2. Maybe because I found them a bit more difficult to categorise. But and I'm assuming the franchise you were talking about then is See No Evil?
No, Bring It On.
Oh, okay.
This must be, I don't know, I'd hazard a guess that this is at least number 6, something like that, in the Bring It On
Is
franchise.
this an official Bring It On movie?
They can't use the name Bring It On featuring cheerleaders and be like, oh yeah, this is not the same as the originator. Of course it's the same thing.
It didn't get much of a budget though. I can only assume.
You know what the budget is, because I don't.
No, I don't know what the budget is. I'm just going by the acting talent that they managed to procure. Was that the cat just jumping down? Looked like something banged against the window. Like we had some spooky shenanigans happening here. Just the cat. Well, after that distraction, it makes it pretty clear which movie we're going to start with this week.
Bring It On, Cheer or Die, in last place.
Absolutely.
Off you go.
Now, I'll admit it.
Technically it's listed as horror comedy.
I like a bit of a dance movie, a cheerleader movie. I quite enjoy it.
Yeah, I've been made to watch some.
But this was kind of in a level of its own. Usually you can get a certain level at least of the main cast and their acting and dancing abilities. But I fell a bit short
When I saw this listed,
for this
we've seen Bring It On, the first one.
one.
I saw
Yeah.
with Kirsten Dunst.
Mm-hmm.
And the most disgusting thing about that movie is a bit where like she's talking to her friend and her friend goes, "Oh, you've got like terrible breath," and then she like laughs about it, and then the next thing you know she's brushing her teeth. I will just think about, oh, she's got disgusting breath. This cheerleader never left my memory. So after that, I think there were a bunch of straight to DVD ones probably. I'm not sure if any of them were released cinematically. And then out of nowhere, I saw this in the listings, and I thought if anything else, it should be fun / stupid.
It was stupid.
It was stupid, but not stupid enough for me to enjoy it. It wasn't anywhere near as fun as I thought it was going to be. I don't know if it sucked harder as a horror or as a comedy.
Well, this is a slasher style horror. That's
Yeah, with
that's what you've got, right?
You've got a little tubby Diablo.
Yeah,
running
so
after
the
everyone.
cheer mascot is the killer disguise in this one. we can get straight into that for one thing, because this cheer mascot is supposed to be the devil, El Diablo. They could have made it so freaky, but instead you've got some short, like, round, pot-bellied, clown masky devil thing with this dumb tail hanging out.
Does he have a bow and arrow or something like that?
Yeah, he uses a few things, but bow and arrow, which again is super random.
Uses pom-poms. See, that's the thing. When I said this movie could be fun, and Death by Pom-Pom is quite a fun idea, but the way it was executed in this movie, it was just like, oh, let's just kill someone with a pom-pom and not give a damn about how it looks or any artistic integrity whatsoever.
Yeah, choke on this. But
yeah, so I was bitterly disappointed with with the horror injection into something like Bring It On.
It could have been so fun.
Don't want to keep repeating myself, but yeah, it should be a really fun movie, and they've just completely missed the mark.
It would have been a great premise for like scary movie style comedy, but
just because it's a Bring It On movie doesn't mean it has to suck hard.
They didn't really hit the mark with any real feeling for me, no atmosphere. Like, there was neither a great build-up for comedy, I guess just because it wasn't funny, but there also wasn't...
No, it was not funny.
There was no tension whatsoever, which, with the other two picks that we're going to discuss, even though none of these are ever going to make my top picks in any category, at least there were moments of atmosphere in the other two, but this one just bland all the way through. And it had your favourite performance possibly ever, I think.
What, the guy with like the blonde dyed hair?
Yeah, one of the male cheerleaders in this core group.
Yeah, some of the cast, fine, they'll go on and they'll be in lots of other things. Some of the cast just, I don't think, surely they can't have been actors.
For me, it was really quite 50-50 split, actually. There were some decent enough performances considering what they were given to work with, but then some were just so painful to watch. What?
And it wasn't painful in the way that makes the movie enjoyable either. Sometimes you watch bad performances just go by, even though it's the master of it all, The Room. There's charm to it and stuff. In this one, there's no charm or anything like that. It's just bad and not interesting to look at, not engaging, not anything.
And when you have, as I mentioned, this killer villain who you see quite often, as like short, as well as all the things I already mentioned, there was no sense of danger from this.
No.
And I mean, there's not even that much to say in this. We've kind of covered everything. There's a bunch of cheerleaders, and they want to practice, so they go to an abandoned school, and then this masked killer is trying to kill them off one by one, and it turns out it's the generation below these like previous cheerleaders who killed one of their mums, killed the sister of the other mum, and that sister clearly went mad.
During cheer squad.
Yeah, during the cheer like pyramid thing.
So the woman that died on the cheer pyramid, is it her sister then raised her daughters for the sole purpose of getting revenge against the future cheer squad,
yes,
which she knows somehow will also feature the daughters of the people that wronged her.
Exactly. She also happens to be the headmistress of the school they're all at, so she can control the cheer squad and all that. But so
I can normally let all stuff like that go. It's not the worst premise or anything like this, but just because everything was just so shoddily done that you just can't let anything go. Some of just the way it was shot was just amateurish as well. And by the way, is there anything just that looks less cool than a cheer squad ultra peppy energetic performance? It's just because I mentioned this to you in the week, and you said for something that should be quite impressive, and there's a lot of strength involved, balance, all that kind of stuff, you name it, but it just, no, there's something about it which is just...
The whole attitude of it is what makes it lame. Like I said, really, these are some incredible athletes. You've got gymnastics and acrobatics and all of this tied together. But it's this peppiness, and it's the constant, claps and... I don't know. I can't decide if I find it more cringeworthy, just the regular style cheer routine, or the ones where they try and get a bit, sexy.
What is the point in a cheerleading squad
They're supposed to be peppy. They're supposed to pep the team and the crowd.
But exactly, that's the thing. They're supposed to pep the team. But do you think like anyone's ever gone to the quarterback and gone, "Oh, Biff, you know, cheer practice didn't go as well as hoped, and the cheer squad's captain's not going to make tonight's game." It's like, but I had such a great practice all week, and now knowing that the cheer squad aren't up to scratch, I don't know if I can even play tonight.
Yeah, that's
it doesn't affect anybody, does it?
No, to be fair,
it's a completely they could just scrap it, save some money for the school curriculum, forget spirit.
I can't believe what I'm hearing. Johnny wants to scrap cheerleaders.
This is not the kind of cheerleading I enjoy.
So you just want straight up strippers on the field then to entertain you between? Because I was going to say...
They're just putting words in my mouth.
I don't think it's so much about pepping the players. They should have their own thing. They're athletes. But the crowd, there's lots of breaks and the crowd needs to be kept into it and stuff. I think the cheerleaders are for them.
Do you know, before they went all big time and went Premier League, Brentford FC, my team, where I'm from, my family's from, when they're in the lower leagues, they had a cheer squad for a short period at their little 12,000 seat stadium. They'd come up before the game, and it wasn't of the American standard. I can say that much. And it's like still, even if it was of the American standard, I was still just watching it kind of like baffled. Like I'd rather listen to the guy talk over a tannoy about today's attendance and someone parking in the wrong spot.
I was a cheerleader at university for all of 3 months.
Yeah, see, and then when he told me that, I had these kind of visions in my mind. Then when he told me what it actually entailed, it wasn't the same kind of thing.
No, the only thing that was accurate to the movie representation of cheerleaders is that there were a lot of biatches.
Yeah. Yeah, I could imagine cheer squad, especially in America.
Having been part of many, many different sports teams and training groups and stuff, the cheerleaders really lived up to that.
What do you reckon? What do you think about dudes in these cheer squads? Do you reckon they're super smart actually, because they're getting in on the ground floor with the cheer squad? They're ahead of the game. Am I gonna go in after practice and shower with a bunch of dudes, or Oh, actually, I'm sure he doesn't shower in the same room as the. I'm sure the entire mixed cheer squad don't have a co-ed bathroom.
No, I don't think it's mixed gender bathrooms. Sorry to
okay, so it's not
dream
that
for
foolproof then.
But you would spend a lot of time with them. We've gotten really sidetracked just by the cheerleader subject.
Well, it's because the film was so crap that you might as well talk about something else.
There's not that much to say, is there? I didn't enjoy.
And I might be calling it crap, but at least I'm giving it a chance. Bring it on. Cheer or Die. I was alright, give me some of that. And I was let down. I gave you a chance.
That might actually have been one of the
and you blew it.
Dumbest moments in this movie. Because we keep saying it's a Bring It On, Cheer or Die, but the Cheer or Die thing happens to have been a core element at one point in this film. It's not just a title. Because at one point, the killers, who, I don't know if we mentioned they're twins, so there's 2 of them, they actually subject these cheerleaders that they have now captured in this old hall. They're challenging them to do a certain mini cheer challenge. So they will tell them one by one.
One move.
Well, one series of moves. So that, I don't know the words, but back handspring to split tuck. Something like that. And of course, every time...
Before you were a cheerleader, you should know the moves.
We never even got to that. So boring. So they get them up one by one, and of course, they all do it. And the tension of everyone being like, oh no, that one's so hard, but you can do it. And then the 2 killers are all butthurt, but they don't even go back on their words. Yeah, to be fair, we did say, if you manage to do the cheer moves, then we won't kill you.
You haven't done the scene justice, and it's not your fault. It's just because the scene is just so absurd, and it's another example of a reasonably fun idea. Perform this cheer move, or I'm going to slice the throat of your, cheer squad associate. So they go and perform it, but the whole thing was again.
And they could have gone.
Terrible.
They could have gone so much further with it. For example, one of the guys, your favourite performer, he's injured his ankle already. Or no, the girl has injured her ankle. Sorry. Like it matters, and she does some flip for her challenge, and she manages to do it. But they could have done a really cool thing of going right in on her ankle when she lands the jump and having it snap in close up or something.
Your vocabulary just went true cheer squad style. You said like it matters. That's the kind of thing yeah. the cliques in the cheer squad would again say. So yeah, I don't release another one. Just go back to cheerleading, and even don't bother then either, because
basically we're saying it wasn't really worth a watch. Sorry. And we'll move straight on to the second one, because I don't even have anything more to say about that.
In second place, See No Evil.
I don't know what I was expecting.
A WWE film. What do you mean you don't know what you were expecting? Well, WWE films.
Yeah, I had no idea what to expect. I didn't know if it was like what kind of budget level, what kind of professionalism was supposed to be part of this. Well, the most positive aspect of the entire experience was over within the first 10 seconds, because the intro images that they used, I remember thinking, this is kind of like someone who's in their first year of film school trying to be artsy, but I still kind of like it. So I quite enjoyed that little intro montage, and then it just kind of fizzled from there for me.
What did you know that the WWE did movies?
No, I had no idea.
What I like.
I've had WWE guest stars on the Scooby-Doo episodes I used to love watching.
Yeah, we've seen a couple of the WWE.
Yeah.
Scoobies are good. So, what is your experience of the WWE, if any?
It's mostly just through
do you know who Kane is, or was? So Kane, last night, as Jacob Goodnight, was your first experience of Kane the wrestler.
It was, I believe, yeah.
It wasn't mine.
I know Hulk Hogan and a couple of other ones through either Baywatch or Scooby-Doo, and that's pretty much my entire experience.
I don't know if they still have the rights, whether it was the rights, but the WWE also made one of the more recent, or the most recent Leprechaun movie.
No way.
It featured one of their smaller wrestlers called, I think his name was Hornswoggle, as Leprechaun. Okay. So they've dipped their fingers into horror more than once, at least thrice, because we've got 2 See No Evil movies.
Mm-hmm. And so does Kane return for the second one?
Yeah, Kane's in the second one as well. And yeah, this was also, I think it was a Lionsgate film, which means the same people that made Saw. It was almost like the set was like the interior design was done by the Saw team. it was that kind of makeup, same kind of thing. A bunch of people in there. It's almost like the second Saw, where everyone's just in the same room. They have to survive, and this time they've got to survive the wrath of Kane.
Yeah, so we start with a bunch of juvenile delinquents, right?
Yeah,
that's what they are, and it's some pioneering program that they want to try out that would cut some time off their sentence in exchange for some volunteer labour. So there's a group of girls,
you have to clean a dusty house.
It's an old hotel, and their whole thing is that you'll get 2 months off your sentence or something for 3 days cleaning this place. I couldn't watch the movie in the same way from that second, and I really wanted to talk to you about it whilst we were watching, but I thought I'd save it for now. There was no planning going on in the cleaning of that house. There was no rotors, no safety equipment, and I could see beneath all that dust, of which there was ridiculous amounts, by the way, that it would have been such a pretty hotel, and all I wanted from that moment on was just to get in there, roll my sleeves up, and start scrubbing and painting, and I got all excited about it, and then every time I saw them doing something, I was like...
Why did you get excited about cleaning an imaginary house and don't get excited about cleaning our house?
I do when there's, but that one's more exciting because there's such a huge difference. I get very... I need to see a big change to get excited about things like that. Not just like a bit of a dusting. That's not exciting. It needs to be a transformation.
So you don't like a light dusting, you like a
I like
thorough...
to get in somewhere filthy and make it sparkling. Filthy? Yeah, not just some maintenance cleaning. That's not fun. Get real. Yeah, but apart from that, so they're in here. They're supposed to be maintaining this place, and they're spending these nights here whilst it's happening. And there's an old lady who runs the hotel. Old lady. And then there's the male and female I don't really know. They're like the carers of these juvenile delinquents whilst they're in.
One of them is a
jail.
cop who at the beginning of the movie gets maimed by Kane. Remember, he gets his
Right.
the lower half of his arm chopped off, so now he's got a fake hand.
Okay, yeah. So this
And
cop
two of the characters
guy,
ask if he masturbates with her.
this cop guy has already had a run-in then with the killer,
With Kane. Jacob Goodnight.
which isn't really explained though.
No, nothing in this movie explained. It's all just like,
It's
oh,
quite
here's why this
confusing.
happened, and here's why this happened.
And
So why is Kane absolutely mental? Well, it's because his mum kept him in his cage and showed him porn, saying, you can't look at this, don't get aroused by this.
It's so weird. The concept again was perfectly sound and could have made a pretty decent movie, but it just wasn't pulled off very well. It had a bit more scariness to it than Bring It On, Cheer or Die, but that really didn't set the bar very high.
There's some nice bits in this. Kane, he likes to collect the eyeballs of his victims, so certain parts where he's sticking his fingers into people's faces and taking the eyes out, then you see it like just be like into the jar.
His weapon of choice a lot
his
of
weapon
the
of
time
choice
was
was cool, and
like
also
a massive fish hook on a chain or something that he could
yeah,
hook people onto and drag them around.
they could have done more with that. I think because sometimes when he would hook the people and he would like grab them in the leg and he'd start dragging them along, I feel like the kind of movie it is, you might as well go super whole hog on the gore, and they didn't so much. I felt when he's throwing the thing, they went a bit more gory and everything. I don't know if that's a budget thing, who knows? But yeah, I think they could utilise that a bit better because it is just a torture porny type movie. It's all about the violence because there's no real story behind it. But I asked you about your experience with Kane. You had none. I was watching because I was young enough. Not that you have to be young to watch wrestling, I guess. Some of my best friends still watch wrestling, even though I gave it up when I was like 10 or something like this, 10 or 11. When I was growing up, Kane, he came into the WWE as the Undertaker's brother, who was thought long perished in a burnt down house, but now he's back and he wore his pretty cool mask. He had long curly hair, and he wore like a all-in-one red and black leotard thing, which covered his entire body, and obviously he's huge. And in this movie, as a killer, he wears a t-shirt, a sweater. So his get-up as WWE Kane is way more horrific and in vein of an actual horror character than what Jacob Goodnight was in this movie, who just dressed like a regular dad or something like this. So about halfway through the movie, it came into my head. I started to think to myself, would See No Evil be better if Kane was dressed in his WWE attire? And I came to the conclusion that yes, it would be better if he was just walking around in his mask and his leotard. Because in the movie, there's a bit where he's in the lift, an elevator, and he grabs a woman by the throat, an old lady, and picks her up, it lifts her in the air with one arm and throws her down on the floor. That's called a choke slam. And in wrestling, that is Kane's finishing move. So in the movie, he's literally choke slamming old women to death in lifts. And at the end, he double choke slams a couple of people, one person in each arm, throws them both down. So he's utilising his WWE moves and persona in some way by showing off his finishing move in devastating fashion.
What's really bizarre though is that it turns out that he is living in like the penthouse floors or something, which is supposed to be off limits anyway. But as it transpires, the old lady that runs this place happens to be his mum.
And
so
you can't tell whatsoever that she's
not
a bad
obvious at
person
all.
from the first frame you see her.
But so we figure out then obviously she's designed this whole thing to get victims for him, but it's not
Because she screwed him up.
There's so many plot holes still involved in this, and there's so many flashbacks to his sort of childhood being in a cage and being abused by her and stuff. But
moaning about plot holes, I said to you again, what did you expect when you saw WWE films come up? The guy that exec produced this is Vince McMahon, who is the creator, owner, CEO of the WWE, the big daddy of the corporation. He exec produced this movie. He gets people to write storylines in wrestling, so I don't think plot holes were really a concern when he thought let's get into the movie business.
But there wasn't any of the rest of the wrestling stuff. Like there wasn't any comedy to it really. There wasn't.
Oh no, it was played straight.
There wasn't any flamboyancy. There wasn't all the stuff you would expect from wrestling, or that I would expect anyway.
Kane doesn't talk very much in this movie.
Basically not at all.
No.
For a long time I thought he was just a mute.
And when, well, again, that's when he comes into WWE, because he's been burnt in this fire, when he first came in, he used to talk with a voice box like this. And on my wrestling game on the PlayStation 2, there'd be a bit where all the wrestlers would come out, and before they start wrestling, if you had, you know, a 4-wrestler face-off, before they start getting down to the actual wrestling, each character would say something to each other. So you had like Triple H would be like, "You better get your ass in the gym, fat boy," something like this. And it would go to Kane, and all you'd hear is this. The PlayStation 2 wasn't good enough to, you know, use technology to make a voice box come to life. So he would just mumble a bunch of nothing.
Sounds great.
Yeah, I think we might still have it because I bought you a PS2. Yeah, nice pink one.
Hot pink.
Yeah.
Well, he does say something at one point in this, because he has a sort of moral crisis right towards the end. He's caught one of the girls, and instead of killing her, he's put her in a cage, and it transpires it's because she's got tattoos of like crosses, like religious crosses or something, somewhere on her body. And then at one point he's looking at her and like rubbing himself.
Oh yeah.
It's really, really pervy. And then he's about to open the cage, I assume, to, you know, have his way or whatever. And eventually his mum turns up, and she's wondering, why the hell is this girl still alive? You're supposed to kill everyone. So she's trying to convince him to kill her. He won't do it because he's horny. So then she takes the gun.
Of course he's horny. He's not been allowed to relieve himself since he was like 14.
And is going to try and kill her.
These are the results.
I don't even remember if it's one of the other kids that intervenes or if he stops his mum. I think he kills his own mum in the end, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's a pretty awesome bit. He picks her up and like throws her onto a spike, which is hanging from the wall.
Right, yeah, he like launches her 10 meters across the room.
And the way that shot, that was pretty fun.
That was the funniest, most WWE moment of the whole thing.
A lot of the best bits came towards the end. That was Kane killing his mother, and when Kane gets like a pole put through his eye, and then as he's falling out the window, and he's falling many stories, but as he's falling, the camera goes on, you know, his face with the pole hitting the side of the building rather than him just falling to the ground kind of thing. Yeah, he's hitting his head, and that's pretty cool. One bugbear I've got this movie, a huge one, because this isn't a movie like I don't dislike it, I don't love it. It's just it was absolutely fine. But one of the characters, the guy character that survives at the end, he's a complete prick in this movie. He's been in a relationship previously with one. Pimp. Yeah, he's a pimp. Yeah, apparently he's a pimp. But there's a bit in the movie where a starving dog comes out the wall, and he throws a beer can at the dog. So as soon as he does that, I'm like, as far as I'm concerned, yeah, it's, especially my way of thinking, I want you to die in the most gruesome way possible. I want you to suffer. And instead, he survives. He ends up. They tried to give him like a redemption arc.
Yeah,
but there's nothing redeeming about his character whatsoever. He goes back to save the 2 girls or whatever. But even then, he just says, "Oh, I only did it because I didn't want to walk out alone." But yeah, I don't know if I understood thoroughly or if they were just saying that. But as far as I could tell, yeah, he'd thrown something at this dog, which is horrible. But then the reason he was in there, most of them had done like a bit of shoplifting, or there was an online fraud guy, stuff like this. I think he was like, he'd literally been one of the girls' pimps and like beaten her and forced her to work and stuff. And I was like, I never really thought about that too much.
In what world is this literal pimp? Not in the good way, like the job description.
Not even a fun pimp.
Not in like the platforms and the long fur coat. Just a dickhead who is fine abusing animals. Yeah, how is he suddenly coming round as the rescuer? I think I said that to you at one point. I was like, oh, so the pimp is going to save everyone. Great.
Possibly, I thought surely not.
Oh, and also the effect of, I agree, the eyes coming out thing. I'm not even like a freaky about eyes kind of person. But that was a fun aspect to it, and pretty gory when you see all the like jars filled with it. But all the times they showed the faces with the eyes gouged out, I just something didn't quite look right.
No, it wasn't a oh look away moment when he was gouging people's eyes out or anything like that.
And even once they're out, I mean, when they find these people without their eyes, whether they're alive or dead, it just like, because obviously they have CGI. Yeah,
when the 2 lads are looking around the house towards the beginning of the movie, and I think the hotel, and does one of them say that there's like a a briefcase or something somewhere in the house which has
A safe,
a safe, yeah, it has a safe now. So they're like, oh, I found it as a safe. Let's keep it sturm and we'll go and look for it. And yeah, they come across a body on the stairwell, and they're looking at it. It's like, oh my god, is he dead? And then they're not too freaked out about him being dead, but then they pull the head forward, and yeah, he's missing his eyes in that moment. And it was lit and stuff, and the music cue comes in for it to be like, oh, the guy's missing his eyes kind of thing. But it didn't. Yeah, it just didn't have.
No, they didn't.
Whatever it needed to nail it. No.
As you said, I didn't mind it. I'd watch it again if it came on or something. I wouldn't turn it off.
Well, it's a See No Evil 2, so we'll definitely be watching that.
I don't see where it could go from that though. Like, he's killed his mum. He had that whole crisis of like,
well,
do I still want to kill people? Or
when they caved his head in See No Evil, and they caved his head in, but he's still alive. But there were maggots and bugs coming out of his head.
That was from when the policeman with no arm, when his arm was chopped off, he shot the guy in the head. So this is the old wound.
Right.
So yeah, he's obviously got... That was the other thing I was going to say, actually. You just reminded me.
Well, I thought that was
a bit confused that there was like... I wasn't sure
that was so cool.
I wasn't sure if this was supposed to be supernaturally or not, because they also insinuated with certain things like opening and closing that I wasn't sure if it was just them trying to build tension and it was him the whole time, or if they were saying there's some kind of other thing. Oh, and he was always preceded by flies. Flies were the giveaway.
Yeah.
Which again, I don't know if that's a supernaturally thing. I mean, surely it must be. If he's got maggots living on this old wound through his brain, then there's something supernatural going on.
Yeah, flies are buzzing around him because of what's in his head. I'm pretty sure it is. So it's almost like the Candyman. You notice all the, the bees coming, whatever. But in terms of nothing.
In terms of silence.
That was it. So you mentioned the guy who's playing a pimp. And when our team of, say, 8 main characters are introduced, when they're being driven through, or being taken out of the prison in the bus and stuff like this, and they're being driven to this co-ed program, and the camera, it will stop on each character, and their previous misdemeanors will come up below their name and stuff like this. And if you notice, the first time that it said what the guy's crimes were, one was, say, like fraud, and the other one would have been perjury. And it went to the first girl, and it was aggravated assault. So the men aren't being aggressive for the most part in their crimes, but all the girls had aggravated assault and stuff like this because they were badass. And they were also badass because it wasn't the guys going to this co-ed program who brought condoms along. It was one of the naughty thinking women on the bus who got found out. So they're thinking about sex, they're assaulting people. Yeah, the women are the bad bunch in this movie.
Including
even though you've got
the mother
Pimp on the other side.
Who abused her son into being a killer.
Yeah, the mother was the real evil presence in this movie. The real mental one,
yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I think that pretty much wraps up my views on this film.
What do you think of Kane and his brother The Undertaker's generational run as tag team champions? No one could take the belts off them.
Good for them.
What do you make of... I described what Kane wears. He changed his character at some time during his career and became Corporate Kane. So instead he was walking around in a short sleeve shirt with a tie, carrying a briefcase, and he was Corporate Man. So he went from this demonic kind of guy who couldn't speak and was burnt to a crisp to a guy who carries a briefcase and like does taxes and stuff like that. Technically he's stolen another guy's character called IRS Man who came before him. Now I believe he's now reverted back to original evil Kane.
The only positive thing I can see from the briefcase one is that it must take him a lot less time to get ready.
After watching this one, would you be interested in watching the WWE production of Leprechaun?
Yeah.
With Hornswoggle? Yeah, I think we can get that. Cool, See No Evil. Yeah, I'll watch it again, and I'll definitely be checking out number 2. Something else that just came to me as well, and it's something that will resonate with you. So I've obviously, mostly, I've talked about Kane being in the WWE during the review of this movie. And he came around the time when it was called the Attitude Era in the WWE. And this is where the whole "suck it" thing comes from. So you would have seen Joe do it in Impractical Jokers. And even though you've never seen the original be done, you do like to walk around and tell me to do that.
I just assumed it was a Joker's special thing. But
No, comes from that. Yeah.
great, I've learnt something new today.
Yeah, and now you can use it freely. Now you know the origins
Suck
of suck it. Yeah, suck it, suck it, suck it. D-Generation X Park used to do it. Suck it. Really dumb, but now it's almost like entertainment for children again. Back in this era, there's a character talking about horror in WWE. There's a character called Mark Henry. He was between like £300 and £500. Make of that what you will. And at one point, he starts dating some old age pensioner called Mavis in the WWE. He impregnates her, and then we see her giving birth in the hospital, and she gives birth to a slimy hand. And this was just a side storyline in the soap opera-like Attitude Era of the WWE. An old lady giving birth to a slimy hand, fathered by a £500 wrestler, about 40 years her junior. Great stuff. Entertainment ain't what it used to be. At number 1, Campfire Tales.
Which essentially is just them saying, well, we can't call it urban legend because that's been done, so let's call it Campfire Tales.
I've just remembered something else as well about See No Evil. The director, he's gone by a few different names before, and it turns out he directed something called Hootamania. And the outline of Hootamania is that there's a prince living mostly in his bathtub in some cave, when all of a sudden he is summoned by a busty goddess called Mama Jamma to go on a hero's quest to find the perfect jugs. Accompanying our hero on his trek is a character called Pocket Pussy, a little device which our hero squeezes to make it look like its lips are moving, and which talks to him throughout the video, offering dumb advice. Hootamania, one to look out for.
Good God, right.
So at number 1, we've got Campfire Tales.
Yeah, you said that already.
Not Hootamania.
No, absolutely not. So, Campfire Tales, yeah, it's the same sort of premise thing as like an urban legends style story.
Started out almost like I Know We Did Last Summer, with a whole crash on the winding road and stuff like that.
Yeah, so we get
after
segments.
the initial prologue scene.
We get segments, which are portraying the various, I guess, urban legends that they're telling around this campfire or whatever. And I didn't know this going into it, but I saw in the credits at the end they were directed by different people. So it's not just like the whole film was done by one guy or girl.
No, they do that a lot in the more recent. It's a franchise now, or a film series, the VHS, where they'll have a bunch of different stories and a different director on each one. So this movie I think came out in 1997, so it's not an originator, but earlier than all of the late ones doing it now.
Yeah, but then again, it kind of follows. It's a film, but it kind of follows the episodic vibe, like Tales from the Crypt and stuff, which obviously they all do different directors.
It is what it says on there, isn't it? It's Campfire Tales. The 4 or the 3 of them have a story.
4 of them, yeah.
Yeah, and very. I like that kind of premise. I enjoy that kind of premise.
And it was interesting seeing they were directed by different people, because I remember thinking at one point, I was like, it seems really strange that the director who did the sort of main story arc that ties it all in also did this, because they don't seem like on the same level to me. And I thought the guest directors, the segment directors, did much better work on their little pieces than the main story with those 4 who are actually telling the tale.
I've got to say, I didn't really think about it that much, because mostly, remember that time when we were watching this movie and you stuck your hand in my face because you thought I was sleeping?
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of minutes
thought you were out.
A couple of minutes after that, I did fall asleep. So, I missed a whole bunch of this movie. So not only are you going to be enlightening the viewers of I Know What You Watched Last Week, you're also going to be enlightening me. Now, what I remember from it, and you've got to consider that I fell asleep. I missed half the movie, but I still put it at number 1. Still put it at number 1.
If that doesn't tell you everything about this week's movies.
I remember opening, and we got James Marsden and Amy Smart in the black and white, so like in the 50s. They have the hook in the car door urban legend, that classic one. I remember that. That was all well done. And then we got into the Campfire Tales bit, and then the first story was the one with Ron Livingston where he's driving the RV with his girlfriend.
Well, it's the second story, I guess, technically, because that old one with the hook car hand would have been the first, essentially, wouldn't it?
That is, but we haven't even seen the main car yet. Technically, they're still walking around in the woods. They haven't even got lost yet, or they haven't even like crashed their car or whatever to sit down in the woods to start telling the stories. So I thought it was more like a prologue almost. It's almost like it wasn't part of their story. No one's telling that story. It's just an opening of the film. So when they start to tell the stories, the one with Ron Livingston, the guy driving the RV, I saw the entirety of that, and I thought lots of that were pretty cool. Pretty stereotypical and things, but I enjoyed the way it was done. I thought I think just the characters normally plays. Ron Livingston plays a character called Burger in Sex and the City, and he's like a really annoying, idiot, whiny guy, and I've just kind of associated Ron Livingston with that character ever since. So I enjoyed him much more. In this one, it's more like a happy-go-lucky kind of idiot in this one because he does all the things that he's told not to do by, I think the guy's name was Cole, the guy they come across in their RV who's walking around outside hunting these things in the sky with a shotgun.
So I'd never heard of this urban legend before. I'd heard of the, escaped mental patient with the hook hand. I'd heard of that one, and I'd heard of one that comes later, but this one, I still didn't really understand who these creatures were. So they're creatures that come out at the full moon.
This one is called the honeymoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the couple are on a honeymoon.
Yeah.
And these creatures come out at full moon, and as you mentioned, this one guy comes to warn them, like, get out of here, basically. You're not safe.
They're on their way to Vegas, and it's Rick, Ron Livingston, he decides to take what is called a shortcut, as he calls it, to come and see some kind of caverns, or something like this. Yeah, and that's how they end up getting themselves in trouble.
Warned to get away, and they do obviously get attacked by these creatures they've been warned about, but I still couldn't really understand, even once we saw them, what they're supposed to be.
No, me neither.
And what the urban legend is. I've not heard that one before. Because they weren't werewolves. They weren't vampires. They were just kind of like grim, human-esque type beings that don't seem to speak. Also, this made it really obvious that they clearly didn't have either the budget or the people for any gore and SFX, because every time something happens, like at one point the woman of this couple tries to defend herself. It was pretty cool. This creature thing, whatever it is, breaks the glass at the top, like the little dome window at the top of the RV, and like goes down to grab her and stuff, and she eventually finds this mini fork on a long, it's like as in like a mini farming fork is what I mean, and she sticks it up into him, and you don't see any of the contact, you don't see any blood, you just see this like stick shaking around through the hole, so you know that it's obviously reached its target, but you don't actually get to see it. But again, with this one, it's funny that it's the least gory one in terms of you don't get to see any of it. Most of it's just insinuated. But it was definitely still the one that I thought had the best like
tension
horror
and
atmosphere
stuff,
and tension. Absolutely. Yeah. And a couple of the segments were filmed, I thought, just really well. I remember being quite pleasantly surprised at some of the moments.
Yeah, I even liked really small things when Ron Livingston's character, he got the camera, say, on the dashboard, and it just shows him turning into a turn, and then the camera would then be up in the trees showing the RV at night turning into where he's just, and it was just quite nicely edited in spots and things, just on a technical level.
Yes.
The honeymoon segment was really cool to look at.
It was really good, I thought. Really well done. So then I think the next segment,
People Can Lick Too.
Yeah, and this one is one again I've heard.
Yeah, this is a classic one.
All the time. It's even in one of the urban legends ones, isn't it? Yeah.
It's shown in the book and things like this, yeah. And
again, I thought this one was done quite well. The one thing that got me like just feeling a bit weird in this one though was, and it got me thinking about the horror genre and the tropes in general, in the terms that in this one obviously the main victim, the main character, is a 10-year-old girl about to turn 11, I think, or something like that.
I think it was on the
or is it 11
eve of her 12th birthday.
Right, so either way, she's very young. And they film her in the same way that they would film like an adult main girl. So you have her, you know, she showers, and then you have her walking around with like the towel wrapped around her, and you have like the shots on her feet as she like changes clothes and stuff. And I can only assume that maybe it's to do with the whole storyline of, you know, the bad guy in this being
The internet
pervert.
friend.
Let's not use the real word because YouTube might just block this video, but you know, he's into what he's into. So maybe the director like tried to get some of that
As in
voyeurism.
we're looking at it through his eyes almost.
Like a
This is
little
a representation
bit.
of that.
It's slightly voyeuristic because maybe it's just me, but I did feel like I've never noticed it being that sexualized before when someone walks around in a towel, but like when you're an adult it feels a bit different. When you've got a kid like changing their outfit and stuff, like it's not like they're showing anything, but it's all insinuated, and the way it was shot still made me feel a bit like uncomfortable.
I can't comment, I didn't see this bit, but I'm intrigued.
Yeah, it was a good segment again, and it really built the tension because you kept thinking that she was gonna get got, but it, you know, keeps just building it. And even as someone who knew the story, and I knew exactly what was gonna end up happening, they still managed to bring it on a like interesting journey to get there. For me, I thought it was really well done, very disconcerting.
Well, you've sold me. I'm definitely gonna have to. I was always gonna put it back on again anyway because I enjoyed what I saw. But it's nice to know that that it's not gonna take, you know, a lull after the honeymoon segment.
No, that one was very good.
Finally, it finished off with the locket.
Again,
I missed
I've
all this
never
as well.
heard of this.
No, me neither.
This legend, and the payoff. I won't say it just yet because I'm sure we'll get there. But the payoff to me didn't seem. It wasn't possible because what was so obvious to me for ages was apparently not obvious to the actual main characters, and I was like, but that I thought. So this guy, you know, he's a wanderer. He's gotten on his bike and he's just never looked back since.
He's a lone wolf.
He doesn't know where he's going.
A renegade.
Cat Joe. But one of these days on his travels, his bike breaks down just outside of a farmstead home in the middle of nowhere. And not only can he not fix it, but it starts pouring down with rain. So he does the only thing that's really an option. He grabs his saddlebags and goes to knock on this farmhouse. Now we get introduced to really the only other character in this segment, which is a very comely young woman who doesn't speak.
So he's dumb.
Yeah. And she seems very, is it Mormon, I'm thinking? Like, she has,
Amish.
oil... Amish, yeah. Amish. She's got, the gas lamps everywhere and stuff. Like, doesn't seem to be in the modern
Apart
era.
from the whole mute thing, is it like Lily Simmons in Banshee?
She's very, very pretty, and she's very trusting of just letting a random man into her house when she's alone.
Once again, you sold me on this segment now as well. Congratulations.
It transpires that he manages to communicate with her through signs, and she has a chalkboard and stuff. So he falls in love with her. She lives with her dad, but her dad is off far away herding some stock or whatever. So this wandering dude knows that this girl is all alone in the house, and they start to have a relationship of sorts. And we start hearing weird shouting and crashes and bell chiming midnight and stuff, and we're not sure what's going on. And it seems to be a pattern, so it escalates towards the end of the segment that it keeps repeating itself. There's a man, clearly drunk and very angry, coming into this house, calling his whore daughter or someone to come downstairs, and you hear a voice, "I'm sorry, Daddy, I'm sorry." And then at one point, our main guy hears all this noise, comes down, he goes into one of the rooms, and there's just blood everywhere. There's been a gory killing in this room. And then the girl finds him. He's trying to get her out. Then they end up going back into this blood room a few seconds later, and lo and behold, it's all clean and clear again. Right?
Magic.
So by this point, I thought it was pretty obvious what was happening. There's one of these things that paranormal people all know about, which is the what's it called, Johnny? You know, when there's an event that's happened and it just keeps repeating itself.
Like residual haunting.
Residual haunting, yeah. So not an intelligent one, it's residual. So the same episode of trauma keeps replaying itself. And it's this, dad with an axe coming in. And I thought it was really obvious by this point now. She's a ghost. And she's tied to this house. And I thought she knew this as well. Because our wandering guy who's fallen in love with this dumb beauty, he keeps telling her, like, oh, you know, something bad's going on here. I'll get you out of here. But she seems really reluctant. So I thought she knew that she like, can't leave the house, right? And she doesn't seem that shocked when stuff keeps recurring. Plus, she's there the whole time just interacting with the guy. But right towards the end, when this is going crazy and this murder scene keeps replaying itself, he manages to get her out of the farmhouse. And they're out, like, lying under a tree somewhere or something. And she's wearing this, like, choker locket. And he's admired it from the start. And he takes it off her neck at this point when she's napping on his lap. And he looks, and it's like a picture of the two of them, I think, in old-timey hairstyling. And then she, like...
That old cliche.
Her neck splits before her eyes and her head falls off. And then you go back to the campfire bit, and the guy's like, and then he was left sitting with her severed head in his lap. So yeah, I don't know what this story is supposed to be based on. The twist was pretty obvious, but it was still kind of menacing. And the ghost of the dad who comes in with the axe and is all murderous, like, I wasn't quite sure. It did feel like he noticed the guy as well. So there was a sense of, like, danger.
So what you're saying is M. Night Shyamalan stole the idea and story for The Sixth Sense and a ghost not knowing that it's a ghost from Campfire Tales segment 3, The Locket.
I'm sure that's what it is.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Anyway, bringing this all back, it seems so obvious to me now, recounting them, that the segments were all pretty damn good, actually.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it.
And it was the overall arc that sucked for me.
I did read that apparently, there's a whole tie-in, and apparently it's supposed to be not a twist ending. Is it a twist ending?
Yeah,
maybe?
it was an unexpected ending.
I don't know that yet.
It was an unexpected one, but it wasn't, to me, very satisfying. And I see what they're saying about stuff tying in, but it doesn't really make sense. And I just didn't think the 4 actors that they have as these main ones out around the campfire. One of them's supposed to be this, like, cool guy who one of the girls doesn't like because the other girl's, like, spending all her time with him and all this, but he didn't fit the brief to me. Like, he didn't seem like the right casting for that role. I just found him quite
Christine
annoying.
Taylor is one of the ladies around the campfire. So is she supposed to be the same age as
the other ones?
The little guy?
No, so the 2 guys, one's her boyfriend, the one who's telling most of the tales.
Yeah, one's the little brother.
And the other one's her little brother.
Oh, it's her little brother.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Okay,
the other
fair
girl
enough.
is just a friend of theirs. Yeah. But even she, like, I've seen her and stuff, and I think she's great. I love her. But she had a scene in this where I was like, oh, it's a shame this has made the cut, because I don't think it's doing her much justice when she's supposed to be laughing about some story. Yeah, the segments are great. Twist ending was a bit of a weird one. Didn't really need it either, to be honest. And, yeah. I'm quite excited to watch it again, though. But we can maybe skip the in-between bits and just watch the segments.
No, I need to see the whole thing now. So, there was also... So you're saying that... You said just in that Christine Taylor, her character is her ex-boyfriend or someone that's just interested in her, and
I believe it's her boyfriend.
her little brother.
And her little brother.
So her boyfriend at one point goes up to her little brother, and towards the beginning of the movie, he's like, "Great concert, right? Is that when you wear that T-shirt to school tomorrow, you're gonna be the man."
Yeah. Again, like, there's this whole weird thing, because it seems like the little brother looks up to him and stuff, but it's really weird writing and direction, because at one point as well I thought that it wasn't I'm not certain, but I'm pretty sure I worked it out right that that's the boyfriend and the little brother of her, but there were certain, like, gay vibe moments as well between the two boys. I felt like with the older one, like, I don't know. It wasn't like obvious, and I'm not calling it out for being there. It might just be completely in my mind, but I just thought the whole thing was very bizarre. I don't know what they were going for, really.
Another thing for me to look out for when I watch this again.
Yeah. It was this in between bits that kind of let it down, and I can understand why people might. I don't know what you were reading that people felt about this twist ending, but I'm assuming it wasn't that
because
popular.
I hadn't seen it all the way through yet. I didn't bother reading past the twist ending, and one person said they liked it, another person said that they didn't like it, so it's up in the air.
It's just it doesn't seem to make much sense with the rest of the film, is all I'll say about it. It wasn't a disappointing ending to me. It wasn't a great ending to me. It was just a bit like, it was a twist mostly because I was like, oh, I didn't think they would do that with it.
Did them tacking on a twist ending take away then from the 3 segments, which were all done very well?
No, because I wasn't enjoying that sort of aspect of it anyway.
Did it tie in as one movie still for you?
Yeah, but less so because there's... we've watched so many TV series and stuff, which obviously are often directed episodes by different directors, but it still feels very much the same to me. And I'm not like you, I don't tend to watch out specifically for lighting and camera work and direction. But,
I don't always, sometimes it just catches my eye.
Yeah, but in this one, it's one of the few times where for a couple of the segments, there were moments where I was like, wow, this looks really nice, and they've really built tension. Like, just the way when, in the honeymoon one, there's a bit where he's...
You have to try and stop moving that chair.
I know, it's so good. There's a bit where he's running away from one of these monsters, whatever they are. And it starts with quite a wide shot with a lot of space sort of behind him. And as you continue through this progress of him running, the shot gets closer and closer and there's less space behind him. So even without seeing anything, like the exact same action is happening on camera, you get such a feeling of like being closed in on by this monster. And yeah, there were so many things that were just done really well in the segments.
In my defence, because I fell asleep during this movie, I had previously set the movie up to watch, but you got so excited by Halloween donuts that you just missed the entire first 15 minutes. I thought, I'd have to start this again or watch it a different day, because you just went nuts about these donuts. And yeah, so I had to quit the viewing and put it on another day when I was less up for
Let's
staying
just
up.
say I can relate to both Scooby and Shaggy and Homer Simpson.
Yeah, donuts. So donuts trumped watching the movie for one night at least, anyway. And then we finally got rid of all the donuts, and then she could concentrate on it the next night. But unfortunately, I fell asleep. But now with your review and having enjoyed
Johnny's going to put it on right now.
the first, I might put it on tonight. Who knows? But either way, it's going on pretty soon. Yeah, Campfire Tales, pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that's it actually for this week, isn't it?
Yeah, we've had so many specials recently in terms of Chucky,
you can't stop talking
Jason,
about it.
Halloween. That there's I know a lot more. It's more to talk about because everyone else knows it as well, so you can let more out. And now we're back to ones that I hadn't seen any of these movies. Mm-mm. But yeah, I'll watch Campfire Tales again, and I'm definitely going to watch a sequel to See No Evil.
Oh, I also want to wrap up this episode with a question for viewers, whether this is the first one you've watched or you're a regular. And if you're a regular, thanks. But do you guys like the animations and pop-ups? Is that something that adds to this for you, or should I just save my time and keep this as purely us talking?
Why the hell are you asking the people? I want the animations, so doesn't matter what anyone else wants.
Okay. Well, that's it for us then for this week. Have a good one, and we'll see you for the next.